The moment he said, "This is why they're lying," you could feel the entire courtroom shift, not dramatically, not loudly, but subtly, like the air itself had gotten heavier. Voiceover. Now here's what's interesting. People expect courtroom drama to explode. Raised voices, objections, chaos. But real tension? It grows in silence. And that's exactly what was happening. Voiceover. Because that small object sitting on the table, it didn't look important. In fact, at first glance, it looked almost meaningless. A worn-out metal tag. Slightly bent. Edges scratched. Voiceover. The kind of thing you'd overlook if you saw it on the ground. But here's the problem. The veteran wasn't treating it like it was meaningless. He was looking at it like it was everything. Voiceover. Now let's break this down psychologically. When someone places an object with that level of care, gentle, deliberate, it usually carries emotional weight. Not just evidence, but identity. Voiceover. And identity? That's where cases stop being legal and start becoming personal. The judge leaned forward, slightly. "Explain," he said, syllable, direct, no assumptions. And the veteran nodded. Voiceover. Again, slow. Controlled. You'll notice a pattern here. He never rushed anything. Every movement felt measured. That's not accidental. That's discipline, military discipline. "This," he said, voiceover, picking up the object between his fingers, "was given to me 26 years ago." Now the room reacted. Not loudly, but you could hear it. Whispers, because time just entered the equation. Voiceover. And time complicates everything. Given by whom? The judge asked. And here's where something subtle, but very important, happened. The veteran didn't answer immediately. Voiceover. Instead, his eyes shifted. Not nervously, but reflectively, like he wasn't just recalling information, he was reliving it. And when people relive something, their emotions tend to surface. Voiceover. But his didn't. Not fully. He kept them contained. That's not suppression, that's training. By the government, he finally said. Voiceover. And just like that, the corporate lawyers straightened in their seats. Because now, this wasn't just a property dispute anymore. Now, it involved the state. Voiceover. And that's where things get dangerous. You see, large companies are used to fighting individuals. But when government history enters the picture, that's unpredictable territory. Voiceover. Now the lead lawyer, sharp, composed, clearly experienced, stood up. "Your Honor," he said, voice controlled but slightly tighter than before. Voiceover. "We fail to see the relevance of this object to the matter of legal ownership. Classic move, direct the focus, minimize the emotional element. Keep everything strictly legal." Voiceover. Because if this case stayed about documents, they would win. No question. And honestly, he wasn't wrong. On the surface, a 26-year-old metal tag doesn't prove ownership of land. Voiceover. But here's where strategy comes in. The veteran didn't argue, didn't interrupt, didn't react emotionally. Instead, he simply looked at the judge again and said, "May I tell the story?" Voiceover. Now that is a turning point, because courtrooms aren't built for stories, they're built for facts. But here's the thing most people don't realize. Stories shape how facts are understood. Voiceover. And great storytellers? They don't just present evidence, they control perception. The judge paused. And this pause mattered, because allowing a story risks losing structure. Voiceover. But denying it could mean missing context. And judges, especially experienced ones, know when something deeper is unfolding. "You may proceed," the judge said. Voiceover. And just like that, the case changed direction. Now watch closely what the veteran did next. He didn't start with the land. He didn't start with the company. He didn't even start with himself. Voiceover. He started with a memory. "I was 19, he said. And immediately, the courtroom leaned in, because numbers like that, they humanize, they create relatability. "I didn't have much." Voiceover. He continued. didn't come from much either. His voice stayed steady, but there was something underneath it now, not weakness, Wankel. And when they sent me there, I didn't ask questions, voiceover. Now here's where things get interesting, because they sent me there introduces ambiguity. Where? Why? What happened? Curiosity spikes. And he knows it. This is controlled storytelling, voiceover. Slow reveals, building tension. He held up the metal tag slightly. This was my identification, he said. And my promise. Now the courtroom reacted again, voiceover. Because promise is not a legal term. It's emotional, it suggests obligation commitment. Something deeper than paperwork, voiceover. And this is where the corporate lawyers started to shift uncomfortably. Because emotional narratives are hard to attack without looking cold. And cold doesn't play well in front of a judge, voiceover. Now the lead lawyer tried again. Your Honor, with all due respect, we are drifting away from the legal matter. But the judge raised his hand. A small gesture, but powerful, voiceover. Let him continue. And just like that, control shifted, completely. Now here's what you need to understand. This wasn't just about sympathy, this was positioning, voiceover. The veteran wasn't trying to win the case emotionally, he was laying groundwork, building a foundation that would make something not yet revealed, make sense, voiceover. And then, he said something that changed the tone entirely. They told me, if I came back, this land would be mine. Silence beat silence, because now we have a claim, not documented, voiceover. Not proven, but stated. And more importantly, it connects the past to the present. Now the question becomes, who told him that? Was it real? Was it official? Voiceover. Or was it something else entirely? The corporate lawyers exchanged a quick look. This time, no smirks, just calculation, voiceover. Because if even a fraction of this story could be supported, their simple case just became very complicated. And then the veteran added one more line, quickly, but with absolute certainty, voiceover. I came back. And the way he said it didn't sound like a statement. It sounded like survival. And suddenly, the entire courtroom wasn't just listening anymore. They were wondering, voiceover. What exactly did this man go through? And more importantly, what happened when he came back? Because whatever it was, it clearly wasn't what he was promised, voiceover. And that's where the real story begins.